This is the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where it's all about getting the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Brought to you by Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com. And now, here's your host, Itamar Shafir.
Welcome to Umbrella Marketing Podcast, where we talk with successful marketing experts about ways to build and grow digital marketing agencies. Our guest today has 30 years of marketing experience, has growth hacked hundreds of businesses to success, and is the author of 3 books on Facebook marketing and business growth. I'm excited to say hello to Mr. Brian Hahn, founder and CEO of Go Social Expert. Hi, Brian.
Hi, Itamar.
Nice. I'm so excited to have you because you're such a marketing expert, especially on Facebook. And I know this is something that a lot of marketing agencies are struggling with, and I'm sure it's something we can help them today. So, Brian, before we get into how we help agencies, let's talk a little bit about you.
Sure.
And if you can, just provide us with a quick business background and how you got into helping businesses.
Sure. I owned other businesses for quite a few years, and I had developed marketing programs that worked quite well in my own businesses. And while I still owned those, I was working with other businesses with helping them with their marketing, especially online. I started doing online marketing, back when it was a new thing, especially Facebook and such. We started using it in 2008, 2009. I mean, that was way before ads and that kind of thing. So we had a system that was working in the business that I was in. It was time to either substantially reinvest in that business or move on to something else. And I decided it was time to move on after 30 years in it. So,
wow, what business was it?
I actually owned a grocery store.
That's amazing. So you use Facebook marketing for the grocery store?
Yes, we use Facebook marketing for the grocery store. We were a specialty store, organic foods, meat department, specialty cheeses, beers, wines. So we found a lot of actually a really good traction on Facebook for those particular markets. Again, that was back 10 years ago now. So
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. So it was before advertising on Facebook, when advertising was very weak. I also started early on Facebook. We were one of the first PMDs. And I remember initially, do you remember Facebook apps? Like when we built those little sweepstakes and you had apps to use on Facebook, and that was the only thing that could create conversions. Were you doing that as well?
I didn't get into the app building. Actually, we were using more of it organically and growing our audience. We were in a local area, so we wanted to target within like 30 miles of our store. It was big enough that was the area we did. So we didn't use the apps, but yes, I'm familiar with all of that. I got started right after that was winding down.
Okay, awesome. So you moved into Facebook advertising from having a grocery store, and then take me through your journey into actually starting to help other businesses grow.
Sure. We from there I went and basically talked to other business owners and showed them results we had been getting and what we got. I started getting hired, so then we started having clients. It was okay. This is great.
Wow, you're describing it like such an easy way. I'm talking with agencies, they help me get clients, and Brian is walking down the street saying, hey, I know social, work with me. How did you get your first clients?
Well, and the thing with that is a lot of it was people that I knew from the grocery business. They knew that I'd been successful with it. And some of them I'd known for quite a while, and they were struggling with the same kind of things. Now, not as many as what I would have liked to have. I knew, I'd say hundreds of people, but I've been in the industry for a long time. And so I used past connections from the other business to get started in this business. Then once you start getting a few clients, they start telling others, you meet people and, you can talk about the success you've had and then grow from there. So it really did came from more live networking and meeting people in person than it did from Facebook, to tell you the truth, especially at first. So.
Wow. Yeah. So we all know face-to-face, offline is great for B2B because it's all about rapport and people trusting you. You started niched, right? You started with the grocery stores, helping other grocery store owners, and then you expand into other industries. How and why did you decide to do that?
The grocery industry is kind of a old-fashioned, stuck in the mud kind of industry. So they're a little not as receptive as I would have liked to more progressive ideas of marketing. So I started branching out into some other industries, and we had great success in there also. So I figured there's no sense to stay stuck in the one industry if they're reluctant to participate. So.
Right. Do you find today, after helping so many businesses, hundreds of businesses, I know, and so many industries, do you find a repeating pattern that of this is how you use Facebook, period, and now I need to kind of customize, or is it's not cookie cutter, it's really every niche and every business?
What it really comes down to is the interest and strength of the business owner. Really, it's the business owner that drives it. Because if they're hiring a team, they tend to hire a team similar to them. So if you hate being on video, videos, it works on Facebook, has worked for years, not a big deal. But if you hate being on video, no matter how much I tell you that, no matter what happens, you're not going to be on video. So if I have a strategy that works wonderful, but it requires you to do video, it's not going to work for you. So either I don't work with you, or you don't work with me, or we figure out another strategy. So that's just an example. So that's kind of where the limits of it comes. We can create a lot of, especially when it comes to video. If you want the representative of the business to be there, that can't be you or one of your team. It depends on the size business you're working for. If they've got people that like video, if the owner does. I mean, I've talked to other owners that love doing video, and they they make that happen then. So. Or if they're big enough and they have a team, if they're big enough and they have a team, and some of the team are the faces of the business, that works there. But otherwise, if we're going to do other type of advertising, we just have to develop a strategy that fits with the business.
Okay.
If I'm clear,
I got it.
There,
Yeah, no, it's good. By the way, the tidbit about the video, I think is very important to all our listeners. So if you have an agency and you're representing yourself, video is key, and especially on Facebook. So get better at that. Right, Brian?
Yep.
Yeah.
And by the way, the first couple you do are going to be terrible. I mean, I'm not great on video yet, but I'm a lot better than I was, 200 and some videos ago or more. I mean, I don't know how many it is now. There's a lot. So.
Yeah. I completely agree. I'm the same. It's a lot of repetition. Some people were just born to it. I have a partner, Barry Plasko. He's like a webinar master, and he was born to get on the stage and talk with people, whether it's on camera or off. So, and for others, but I agree, you can learn it. You can become better at it. That's great. You have a lot of great materials, and one of the things that I notice is that you write, you call social media a fun adventure. Now, and that's great. I love it. A fun adventure. But for the listeners, so some of the listeners, I'm sure, did not see it like that. What do you mean when you say a fun adventure?
Well, there's a few things for it. First of all, you got to look at everything that you're doing. They can either be, it could either be an ordeal, whatever happens to you, or it could be an adventure. So you've got to look at the whole idea of you're putting yourself out in the world. The responses that you get, I mean, the interaction you get, and you don't know what's going to trigger, the thing that you think is going to work wonderful, flops, nobody sees it, nobody responds to it. The thing that you just put together, turns out to, go viral and gets great traction and converts really well for you. So it's the matter of testing and the constant putting out different I don't want to say different content all the time. That's not necessarily true, but testing different offers, being out in front of people in different ways. So, the video thing, if heck, it could be video, it could be, what you're using in your background for your video. It could be the location you're at, the topic you're talking about. It could be the hook that you're using. There's such a variety. But what I mean by fun adventures is the fact of that excitement of there is no guarantee that this is going to work. Just because you and I agree this is a wonderful idea, doesn't mean that it's actually going to work till you put it out into the world. So you actually have to test it and do something with it. I find that exciting that I get a chance to, I don't say reinvent every time, because that's not necessarily the case, but that I get a chance to take what I found to work best so far and put it to work in another way. How's that?
It's perfect. It's perfect. I think if I'm going to analyze it, the adventure are the steps that you need to take, and the fun is the mindset while you're taking those steps.
Yes, that would be great.
Yeah. So, and that's perfect, by the way, I think for any type of marketing that you want to take. If you expect a red button push, 2 minutes after you're cash positive, that's usually not going to happen. Not always, but usually. Okay. So we really want to get into helping agencies. That we do this on every podcast. So you have a ton of great ideas in your book, The Ultimate Facebook Marketing System. What I want you to do right now for us and for the listeners, which are usually digital marketing experts, try to zero in on how you would describe the best funnel on Facebook for a digital marketing agency. 3, 4, 5 things you think they should do to get the best qualified leads for the best price.
And oh, sure, the best qualified leads and the best price. You have to two constraints.
I'm just getting started.
Okay, we'll work through that. The very first thing is you've got to know who you're targeting and who you're marketing to, and that doesn't necessarily have to be an industry. It can be. So I generally target business owners, specific industries, but what I'm more looking for is the mindset of the owner. I can be the most successful with a company that already has a growth mindset or an abundance mindset. But the other thing about it is they're willing to put themselves out and test new things. So I'm just saying that particular owner is going to be more successful than the person that I have to really convince that this might work with it. And then the other step comes into what systems they have in place in their business already. Can they already sell? So that's before I even get started with Facebook. But I'm looking for somebody that actually is selling something now that's already been successful. Then we can put this in practice and make this work.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got that. So, and once you know that person, the next thing is creating the offer that you're going to use. What do you want them to do next is the question. And what I'm looking for is kind of what are they looking to do at the final steps of that. And so what can you offer them that's going to pique their interest? That's going to get them interested in listening to you further. When you're marketing a digital agency, that's not something you're going to buy for $19.95 or even $99.99. So, I mean, it's a significant investment. So they're going to have to get to know you, and that's going to take more than a 15-second video. That's not going to happen. So you need to have, so when you're starting, again, and by the way, I'm saying we're going to use Facebook attracting cold traffic, converting them into clients. The question is, or the whole goal is.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. So then what I'm doing is setting together the steps. So I'm like starting with a video. Again, we talked about that at the beginning. And this, by the way, it isn't always the case. You don't always need to use video, but we found, especially starting with cold traffic, that a video is best. Tend to like them a little bit longer than what you would expect. 5-7 minutes. We've been testing, and it's working, not quite where we want it yet, but we're using a 20-minute video as our front end. Yeah, that's we haven't quite got that one dialed in totally yet, but we're working on it. We're testing it. And that's, by the way, one of the secrets of that fun adventure is that, we make tweaks to this as you're going. I mean, our first version of it wasn't quite the same as the other, but we're using longer form videos and then inviting them into something else. So that something else can be we've tested going directly from that 20-minute video to a discovery call. That one's been getting people to show, they're signing up for it fairly well. Getting them to show up has been a little bit of an issue. I think it's too soon in the process there. We need to do more nurturing along the way. So that's one of the tests that's like, yeah, that one ain't working so well. So that's going away. But we're replacing that with other content. We've got a recorded educational event that's going on that's showing them how we can help them. Basically, it's a recorded webinar is what it is.
Yeah.
But and that's showing promise. Again, people are moving along the side, not as fast as I would like sometimes, but they're moving through the funnel and we're getting clients through it. So it's a matter of us tweaking it from there. So our end goal is to get on the phone with them, a phone or a Zoom meeting, and talk to them, since we can't go see them in person. What we have found is that not seeing them in person slows it down, the process a little bit. In person, I could meet somebody at a live event. We could talk, and we could, I could have a signed deal by the end of the event. Now it might take, 3-4 weeks to work through that process is some of what we've been finding to happen.
Yeah. It's a matter of, like we said before, it's all about trust. The sale is trust, and to create trust, you need to create a bond, and to create a bond, it's easier in person.
Yep.
So putting them through a webinar, I think, is an amazing idea. So you have a 5-7 minute video, then you have some sort of recorded webinar for additional information.
Yep.
Do you put a lot of emphasis on you on the 7-minute video or on the USB?
I'm trying to educate the people and help them. I don't put hardly any on me. It'll be a short, it'll just be a little short credibility part of it. Who am I? But I'm talking probably of that 3 minutes, it might be 20 seconds of me most of the time. And that's the balancing act that you're putting on. Most of the time, the people, they don't really care about you, and they assume that since you're already on video, on camera in front of them, and they don't necessarily see the difference between being on a national media, and one of your own media all that much. So as long as you come across well on camera, you already have credibility right there built in. Mm-hmm. And then in that 3 to 5 minute one, again, that's educational because I don't have enough time to put any case studies or testimonials. We're testing some of that also, the success stories of clients, but I don't start with cold traffic on that generally.
So do you go, the educational part is specifically about your product, or general social, Facebook, this is why it's good?
General social, Facebook, this is why it's good. One of the ones that's been working well is, the 3 biggest mistakes we see in Facebook ad accounts when we're getting started.
I love that. So that's really a to the point kind of message.
Mm-hmm. Yep. One we're putting together one. We're talking about, mistakes that your team may be making in your Facebook ad account. That's another one it's going to be the same mistakes. It's not just a different angle of it. So.
Okay, good. So they start on the video, then they go into the webinar.
Yep.
And on the webinar, it's like an hour?
The webinar is 50. It turned out to be 50 minutes. I was shooting for 45. It came in at 50. So we got 50 minutes of that. And they're going to get, once they sign up, they're going to get emails until they actually show up to the webinar. And then after that, there's another nurture series of emails that follow up. Email and Facebook are incredibly powerful together, moving people through the funnel. So I always assume that that's the case. Everybody knows that, but I thought I better mention that we use that there is email nurture through the whole process, along with retargeting. Once you hit one of our websites, we're going to be retargeting you, or one of the landing pages, you're going to get retargeted with offers back to that until you've taken some action from it. So we've got all of that working together. And then we also blend in then a monthly live webinar for the people, especially the new leads that have signed up. We invite the entire list like every other month, but we invite all the new leads that show up every month for a monthly webinar. Okay. Also. So showing how we can, and again, that's an educational one with an offer. That one has an offer at the end. And that offer is sometimes to buy a product, sometimes to buy a service, which is a smaller value service, but it's still the minimum one I pitch on there is $2,000. So it's not an inexpensive option.
Yeah, but it's you still have 2,000 should be doable for the businesses you describe.
Oh, yeah. So it's not that it's out of line. I don't want people to think that I'm pitching something that's $97, but I'm looking at an entry point offer as being that $2,000 range, because if they can't afford that and aren't willing to afford that, they're not willing to move into the higher price services they're going to be. So.
I agree. So, okay, so perfect. So one thing that is very interesting for me, you started the funnel by saying, I'm going after a specific persona. It's A, B, C, D.
This podcast is brought to you by Umbrella. Have an agency? Check out umbrellaus.com to grow it today.
How do you get that person? Like, is it manual research? How you need to compile a list?
Yes, you do. And that's the number trick. Manual research. It comes down to, and so when I was first getting started, everybody that all the marketing people that I would listen to, or people I'd listen to, say, you've got to have a niche, you've got to have a actual persona, and I could never quite get to where they wanted to go. But what I have found is that it develops over time. You work with a group of people, you work with 5 or 10 people, and you start filtering out which ones are the most successful, which ones are the best, and you try to find more of those. And it's just like your marketing message, your personas that you're actually looking for actually get clearer to you as you do. So it's a process is what I'm trying to say. It's not like you're just going to all of a sudden have it like magic and it's just going to work. At least that for me, it hasn't.
No, I completely understand. What I meant more is,
Yep.
how do you build that?
Them?
Is that, book your data, USA Info? Do you start with some sort of VAs, maybe doing LinkedIn search? So many methods of harvesting data today.
There's so many methods of harvesting the data today. We tend to primarily go back to Facebook. I mean, that's where and Facebook, Instagram, our leads mostly come for our agency come back through Facebook more often than anything else we do. And that just goes back to research. Researching, again, finding out what events they're attending, where they're, what books they're reading, who they're following. And when you're working on Facebook, the audience sizes that we're looking for are much bigger. So we're looking at, putting together an audience of 1 million people or 2 million people or 3 million people of these, and then using our messaging to filter them out, to get them to respond in some way, shape, or form, signing up for that webinar, signing up for the book, there's a variety of things that we're using, but we're finding out where they're at basically by research. And we just, it's been the internal team. We have a VA that does some of the work for us, but it's basically manual labor to figure out where they're at and just keep building. And once we start getting them to respond, then we can start looking at lookalike audiences.
Yeah.
We've been doing it long enough now that we've got a database to start working that we work from. So it's a lot easier than starting cold. But when you're starting cold, it's a matter of getting the first ones to respond so that you can start using the tools like lookalike audiences. And lookalike audiences aren't always the best. I mean, we've had some fantastic success with lookalike audiences, and we've had some flops with lookalike audience. So
yeah.
Again, that's back to that fun adventure. It's a matter of testing and seeing how they're responding versus an interest audience. So
completely. So when you do the filtering on Facebook and you do demographic and you do interest and you do age groups, can you give us one tip? Can you give the listeners one tip of you? For example, you said at the beginning, I want to go after people I already know spending money, or I want to go after people that I know have a specific mindset. Is there anything in the Facebook targeting options that can help them find those people? Or is it a broader, okay. I'm going to let you answer. I'm not going to, much better.
No, it's once you know what that is, sometimes it's the matter of looking for interests that those people have in common. And what I'm going to say by that is, so if you're looking for more affluent people, and again, you have to go searching. So you find out what your audiences are interested in. But so let's say you're looking for affluent people, and there are two different levels. There is, if you want looking for the really affluent, they're interested in different things than a person that is pretending to be affluent. And I'm not saying that quite right, but there's the people that are affluent for show, and there's the people that really are affluent. And the people that really are affluent are doing things casually. The clothes they're wearing are not necessarily the name brand that somebody thinks is. They're wearing, if they're really affluent, they're wearing their own. It's custom made for them. I mean, they're buying custom shirts that are actually tailored for them. They're not buying whatever size. They're not buying even a brand that you'd recognize, that you'd think necessarily on a regular basis. The cars they're driving, they're not interested in the generic quality car. They're looking for the real nice car.
Right.
I guess is what I'm saying. I mean, it's the matter is finding out, going deep enough about them to know what the real affluent really are interested in, and then seeing where you're going to find that on Facebook. And by the way, that's where it takes the research, because once you know what you're looking for, you may or may not find that there might not be a direct category that says this is the person that likes custom tailored shirts.
Right. Then you'll go after the brands, right? The interest of the brands that do, or the people that do custom tailored shirts or something.
Yes, you go after the interest of the people that do custom tailored shirts, or you start there and say, okay, I can't find that, but people that are interested in the custom tailored shirts are also interested in, and you find out what that other next step is, because there's a whole line of them out there of people you've never heard of, that you have no idea who they really are. And by the way, you may not be interested in the ultra affluent, but I'm just saying that's an example that I'm giving
Right. Right.
for it. So
No, I think it's a great example. I'm trying to take it down to the world that I know a lot of the agencies owners are working with. For example, smaller home service contractors, roofers, people who can pay $2,000 for a Facebook campaign for sure, HVAC companies.
Yep.
And so I would do a cross, for example, taking your example of small business owners that are interested in an Austin Martin. I'm taking it a bit further maybe than I should, but and then I'm basically going to get business owners who are affluent, still not roofers, but business owners that have an interest in those types of cars. Okay, I think
that's to get somewhere. That's if you're looking for the ultra affluent there. But in that case, and I'm trying to figure out how to come back to them on Facebook with it. The other thing you could start looking at is if they're interested in marketing itself. So you start finding marketing people that they might follow, the books that they would read. Again, back to the books, magazines. Another thing that people don't often look at is organizations they belong to. A lot of time organizations are actually active on Facebook. There's pretty good audience participation and pretty good audience sizes around organizations, and magazines are two that are both good. Books, sometimes they're there on Facebook, sometimes they're not. Things you'd expect to be there sometimes aren't. But the magazines and organizations usually are, and events, if they're bigger national events especially.
Okay, that's perfect. That's perfect. So to sum it up, we're looking at a funnel that includes a 5 to 7 minute video of general indoctrination to whatever you're trying to sell. Facebook advertising, for example, could be SEO, could be anything. And then going into half an hour to an hour video where it's already going to the USP and you and what you sell, kind of indoctrinated about buy it from me, and lead them to a call. And in the interest group, in the group that we're going after, we want to dig deep into, okay, what they love and what they like, and how can I find more and more avenues to crisscross and create my perfect audience on the money they can spend, on the niche that they work in, and of course on their interest in marketing, kind of the main 3 pillars to find a good persona, right?
Correct. You did a good job of summarizing it.
I'm shy. Thank you. I appreciate it. I think I know a lot of people that are listening to us. Some are veterans. Some get what we say immediately. Some are like, I'm not so sure. Maybe they did half a campaign before because they're SEO PPC people, and this is not really their main expertise. Okay, that's good. First off, thank you very much for this. I think it helped a lot of people. I want to take us a little bit away from business just for 2 seconds, because I also know about you that you support the Special Olympics and the Children Miracle Network, and you're also a Boy Scout for many years. Did something happen in your life or your family that brought you into those specific charities, organizations?
Yes, they did. So my oldest daughter has Down syndrome. She's 31, so she's an adult now, but she's participated in Special Olympics since she was 8. So we've seen the change that it happened with her participating in the sport, was being involved with it, and they're a wonderful group of people. So that's where we really got connected with Special Olympics. My son was a Boy Scout. They always look for volunteer leaders, and I got started there and actually had a lot of fun. And the interesting thing I find out there is that I was I actually enjoyed working with the middle school kids and middle school and high school kids, which I didn't think that when I was growing up. I'd always thought, or when I was an adult, I'm like, I'd never go back and work with middle schoolers. I actually had a ball. They're, for the most part, a fun group of kids. So I worked with
Boy
them.
Scouts.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. I did that with other groups too. I've actually branched out and did some other things with the middle school kids. I actually enjoy working with the middle school kids. They have a fresh view on things, and they challenge everything. They're not going to just take your word for it. You've got to prove it to them, I guess. And I turned out that I had a lot of fun with them. So I worked with them for quite a few years, 10, 12, 14 years. Now my son's aged out of Boy Scouts, so I'm not as active as I used to be, but I was. We still support the cause, and that it's been a good cause. And Children's Miracle Network, I got connected with another business that I own, and we support that. They have a good service. They provide a lot of help for families in need at the time. So
That's amazing that you're supporting them. That's excellent.
Yep.
And it raises another question that it's not specific about charity. Moving from business to personal life, and I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially smaller business owners, where still a lot of the weight of the business is on them, and they feel it pressure, like they have 7 different hats when they begin the business. Do you force yourself, like say 8 hours a day or 10 hours a day, or just between this and this, or I have these weekends?
Yep.
What do you do?
So no, that's a very valid question. I still struggle with it. I used to in the grocery business, the idea of working 10 to 12 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week is normal. I mean, it doesn't matter if you've been in business 40 years, that's still the normal activity. So I tell people I'm struggling to get down to working less than 50 hours a week. So, and I enjoy work, so I'm not complaining about that. But I took up a few years ago, training for marathons. I run marathons. And yes, I still run marathons. And so but I have to give myself permission that I'm going to go on a training run that's going to take 2 hours, or 2.5 hours. It's like, no, it's an okay thing that I'm doing that. And I still struggle. I've gotten better with that over the years, but still some days I'm thinking I should be doing this or that. I'm like, no, it's running time right now. I'm going to run. Right. You have to split up your time. You have to limit, because your to-do list never goes away. I don't care how much I get done. I've still got more on the list for tomorrow. It's not like when I get done at night and I felt like I had a productive day that tomorrow I have nothing to do. I mean, today I've got a full schedule of stuff to do, as I will have tomorrow and the next day. So you just got to say, okay, done.
I think it's exactly that, by the way. I think you nailed it. It never ends. And do you think, though, that you had to have that thing? You had to have that run in the morning, because if you don't have it, there's just no way you're going to take a book for 2 hours and just read. Like, you need something that like have to grab that time, right? It's kind of a trick on your mind.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're in better shape. What I found is, so doing stuff with the Boy Scouts, we'll be on a camp out, we'll be somewhere else, we'll be gone for 2, 3, 4 days. I would come back with more refreshed, more energized, and a lot of times problem solved, and nobody there knows a thing about marketing that I was with, but it gave me a chance to look at things differently, to clear my mind. I'd come back with more results in the next 4 days than if I'd have worked all 8. I'm just saying. It's just a matter of giving yourself, knowing that's going to happen. And sometimes totally disengaging is what it takes to actually get the breakthrough that you're looking for.
I can completely agree with that. So guys, don't take it easy, but take some time. Take some time off to refresh and to spend time with your family and work on yourself and health. Very important.
Yep.
So before we conclude, we have a little thing on the podcast, which is like a rapid Q&A.
Sure.
I ask you 5, 6 questions. Some of them might be a little bit private, so you can say pass.
Okay.
And it's quick answers, short answers. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. First question is, did you get along with your parents growing up?
For the most part, yes, I did.
Do you have siblings?
I have a sister. I'm in business with her, 2 in another business.
Do you have a pet?
I have
Pets?
2 dogs.
How old were you when your first kid was born?
Oh, sure. Ask me hard questions now. 26.
When do you wake up every day?
5:30.
When do you go to bed?
10-ish.
Ideal vacation?
Traveling in our RV around the United States somewhere. Canada's fine too. It's just we can't cross the border right now. So I'm like,
are you a man of faith?
I am.
Okay, that was it.
It was easy.
Look, it's not so easy for everybody to answer the last one. They go like, I talk with a lot of people about that question, comes up in a lot of my conversations, and sometimes people say, "What do you mean?" And if you ask me what do I mean, then it speaks volumes. And for people with faith, it's a pretty easy answer.
It's a pretty easy answer.
Okay, so Brian, I want to thank you very much for being today on this podcast with us on the show. I think you helped a ton of people. And where can the listeners get your book?
Sure, sounds good. Yeah, that was great being here. I love the conversation, the questions. It was a lot of fun. And I'm glad that I helped people. To find my book, the best place to get it, you can get it on Amazon. If you search Brian Hahn on Amazon, you're going to find 5 books there now currently. And the first one that's there, I wouldn't buy. It was written in 2013, so it's a little outdated now. So we took it off, I believe, but that's something you're going to find 5 of them. But otherwise, you can get it on my website at gosocialexperts.com/book. And you're going to, there'll be an offer there for my, the Facebook formula, how business owners find big profits.
Awesome. Awesome. So guys, go to the site, get it now. Brian knows what he's talking about where it comes to Facebook marketing. He's the master. Brian, again, thank you very, very much for spending time with us and giving the listeners all this amazing info.
You're welcome, Itamar. It was a great being here.
Thank you for tuning into another episode of the Marketing Umbrella Podcast, where we provide the information you need from successful leading marketers to build and grow your digital marketing agency. Your host has been Itamar Shafir, founder and CEO of Umbrella, the technology platform and brand that is powering thousands of marketing agencies around the country. Find him at umbrellaus.com.